Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2022. And we begin with the clock ticking down for the start of the Major League Baseball season. If an agreement is not reached by this Monday, opening day of the regular season will not happen as scheduled on March 31st. And despite talks between the league and the Players Association taking place all this week in Florida, there seems to be little movement. The main issue is money, but other topics like the draft lottery and postseason expansion are also on the table. Spring training's already been delayed. Right now it's supposed to start a week from Saturday. Forbes magazine described the negotiations in baseball lingo, saying it appears both parties are swinging for a grand slam with no one on base instead of trying for a double. Overnight, Russian President Vladimir Putin did what most of the world feared he would and announced the start of a military operation inside Ukraine. Both countries used to be part of the Soviet Union, but Ukraine and several other countries gained their independence about 30 years ago. As of this recording, explosions are being reported near several cities in Ukraine. President Biden immediately condemned the move as an unprovoked and unjustified attack. He also said he would hold Russia accountable, and he is expected to deliver more remarks on the situation this afternoon. Even as President Biden is focusing on what's happening in Eastern Europe, he hasn't forgotten another commitment to announce his choice for a new Supreme Court justice by the end of the month. Mr. Biden apparently interviewed at least 3 candidates late last week, all black women, and several of his advisors say he might interview a few more before making his final decision. Outgoing Justice Stephen Breyer announced earlier this year he would step down from the highest court in the land at the end of the term. Once the president announces his choice, the candidate must be confirmed by the U.S. Senate for this lifelong position. More states in the U.S. and countries around the world are starting to open up and ease off on COVID restrictions. But one territory in Asia is doing the opposite. Because of a rise in cases there, the leader of Hong Kong just announced that schools would shift their summer holidays up a few months, so students will be on vacation starting next week. The Wall Street Journal reports school buildings instead will be used as testing, vaccination, and isolation centers to crack down on the current surge in the Omicron variant. Educators, parents, and students were caught off guard, with many families scrambling to adjust their plans. Officials say they will test the entire population 3 times starting next month. Like China, Hong Kong is following a zero-tolerance strategy with the virus. You know it's not fun to catch a cold, and new research has found that dinosaurs might have gotten a case of the Sniffles too. A team of scientists believe unusual bony growths found on the fossilized neck of a young long-necked sauropod are the first evidence that the ancient creatures caught colds and suffered from other respiratory illnesses. Their research, published in Scientific Reports, said the growths were probably in response to a nasty infection, and it was possible the dino experienced flu-like symptoms such as weight loss, coughing, and fever. The fossil in question dates back about 150 million years and was discovered in Montana in 1990. Last week we told you about a parrot that took a GoPro camera for a ride. Today we have a lioness taking an amazing selfie with a GoPro in South Africa. The footage shows the inside of the big cat's mouth as she first licks the camera, then takes a big bite of it. Photographer Frank de Beer left the device on the side of a path usually used by lions in a nature reserve, and he was a safe distance away when the curious cat approached. The camera survived the close encounter thanks to its protective case, and Mr. de Beer was able to retrieve it after the lioness dropped it on the ground, deciding it wasn't tasty enough to eat. That's it for KidNuz. Now, today's KidNuz quiz. Because of COVID, which territory in Asia is starting their school summer holiday next week? Hong Kong. The fossils of a dinosaur that may have caught a cold were found where? In Montana. Major League Baseball's opening day is supposed to be when? March 31st. What animal took a selfie of her mouth? a lioness. In our KidNuz Kicker, one of the most famous animal selfies was taken by a monkey called Naruto while photographer David Slater was visiting a reserve in Indonesia in 2011. The close-ups the monkey took of his own smiling face using Mr. Slater's camera quickly went viral, and Mr. Slater later used them in a book. PETA, or the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, filed a lawsuit seeking to represent the monkey and felt Naruto should get any money earned by the images he took. But a judge eventually ruled the monkey couldn't be declared the rightful owner of the photos, so any money earned from them belonged to the photographer. Before we go, a big KidNuz hello to our terrific teachers and their students, Ms. Raymore and her amazing class at Paterberg in Holly, Michigan, Mrs. Antison at Goshen Intermediate in Goshen, New York, Mrs. Mickle at Northeast Range Elementary in Babbitt, Minnesota, and in California, Mrs. Phillips at Hidden Hills Elementary in San Ramon, and Miss Knapp at Acacia Elementary in Fullerton. Thanks for listening. Please consider a donation to keep us on the air and ad-free, and we'll see you back here for more KidNuz tomorrow morning.